Hello and welcome to a totally new, freshly recorded, updated tutorial for installing the TIE Fighter Total Conversion or TFTC version 1.3.3 for X-Wing Alliance. This video aims to give you a complete guide for installation, setup, and basic troubleshooting to ensure the smoothest possible experience. If you still run into any further issues that this video cannot help you with, then please do join our Discord server and the community will do their best to help resolve your issue. Plus, it's a fun place to hang out too, so, why not join anyway? You can also visit our website at www.tiefightertc.com, which also has a complete written guide to installing the mod, along with all sorts of other useful information about the project as a whole, such as a complete list of keyboard commands, joystick profiles, lists of included ships and stations, and a detailed overview of both the TFTC Classic and Reimagined campaigns. Before we get started though, let's quickly make sure that we have everything we need to get up and running. So, you're going to need at least 60 GB of free space on your C drive, you must be running Windows 10 or higher, a valid copy of X-Wing Alliance, the X-Wing Alliance Upgrade or XWAU mod 2020 Megapatch installer, the other 5.6.2 update is not needed, the TFTC 1.3 installer, and finally the TFTC 1.3.3 installer. Alright then, let's go through this list in a bit more detail. First off, you must make sure that you have sufficient disk space on your C drive. Even if you intend to install both the game and mods onto a separate drive, the combined XWAU and TFTC installers uses your Windows temp folder to extract the contents before copying to the game folder. This means you need an absolute minimum of 30 GB of free space before proceeding and up to 60 GB if you are installing everything to your C drive. If you fail to do this and you have insufficient space, the installer will simply exit and close without any apparent error message or other indication halfway through the installation process. If you are unable to find sufficient space on your C drive, there are methods online which allow you to change the location of the Windows temp folder to another location. A link to this guide can be found in the description of this video. Please be very aware that you modify your system at your own risk and that the TFTC team takes no responsibility for any system modifications that you may make and that may cause unknown issues or other problems for you. Due to the modifications the XWAU team have made to the X-Wing Alliance engine, it is now a requirement that you are running Windows 10 or higher. Though the mod can in theory be installed in Windows 7 and 8, you will likely run into errors or be unable to play the mod at all. You can get around this by downloading the legacy DDRAW DLL file from the XWAU website. This may fix most issues, however this version will generally only use your CPU to process instructions, which is what the original engine did. This will seriously impact performance in some missions that may force you to turn off some of the special effects. Next, you'll need a valid copy of X-Wing Alliance. You can purchase a digital copy of X-Wing Alliance, which can often be on sale for just 3 or 4 quid, from GOG, Steam, or Origin, or you can just use the original 2-disc CD version. For maximum compatibility, we highly recommend you choose GOG as your platform, as with Steam in particular, it can potentially interfere with the installation process or mess up game files after the fact. The game will also crash if you attempt to run directly from Steam, as it refuses to work with the Steam overlay, preventing the game from running. If you do end up purchasing or have a copy from Steam or Origin, always run the game directly from the game files or a mod provided shortcut. Do not run it directly from either platform or their provided shortcuts. As previously mentioned though, there is also the original 2-disc CD version of the game. This will also work but requires an additional installation step. It will be necessary after installing the game to copy the contents of the WAV folder from both Disk 1 and Disk 2 to your installation. If you do not do this, you will encounter an error when attempting to install the mod regarding missing files and the installation will fail. Alright then, prerequisites out of the way, next up, installation. There are now 2 possible processes here. Either you are installing a new, clean copy of TFTC, or you're updating an existing version of TFTC from a previous version. We will first go through the process of a full clean installation of TFTC. If you're just wanting to patch TFTC from a pre-existing version instead, then please skip ahead to this timestamp in the video. So let's first install X-Wing Alliance. As previously mentioned, we highly recommend the GOG version for best compatibility. Once installed, we also recommend after installing the game to copy the entire X-Wing Alliance folder to another location of your choice. X-Wing Alliance has no registry dependencies or other DRM, so you can make as many copies of X-Wing Alliance as you like and put on different mods or versions if wanted. This can save time if you need to do any reinstalls in the future, and prevents other programs or any read-write permission access issues depending on installation location. This is also useful if you wanted to install multiple mods or versions and can save time on any reinstallation. Remember that if you are using the original CD version to copy the contents of the WAV folder from both disks to your installation directory, otherwise you will run into problems installing the mod. Once X-Wing Alliance is installed, it is always good to run the game at least once to ensure that it's working okay. Okay, great, the game is installed. Next, it's time to install the XWAU mod. All you need to do is visit the XWAU website, click on Downloads, and then download the XWAU 2020 Mega Patch. It is not necessary to download and install any additional XWAU patches, as they are included as part of the TFTC installation separately. The most recent XWAU patch as of this video is 5.6.2, which is included in the TFTC 1.3.3 patch installer. Once you have downloaded the 2020 Mega Patch, simply run the executable, follow its instructions, and make sure you select the correct installation path to the X-Wing Alliance folder you intend to use. It will take a few moments to install and will then be complete. The XWAU team periodically releases new patches every few months or so, but these are usually not compatible with TFTC upon initial release. As such, the TFTC team will release our own patch updates as needed to accommodate for new changes to ensure full compatibility and stability. One other thing to note here, the XWAU and TFTC mods include a large number of DLL files called hooks, which enable new functionality into the game engine, such as the updated graphics. These have been known to trigger alerts in antivirus software because these files are injecting new code into the game's executables. These are false positives, and if in any doubt, you can upload the suspected files to something like VirusTotal, which uses dozens of different AV softwares to scan a file and report its status. Otherwise, we recommend if you are having any antivirus software issues to simply exclude the X-Wing Alliance folder from any scans or active protection. All of these DLL hooks are open sourced and publicly available via GitHub for examination. Awesome! You've now got the X-Wing Alliance with the XWAU mod installed. Now we're finally ready to install TFTC. So if you haven't already, download TFTC version 1.3 and also the version 1.3.3 patch from our ModDB page, maybe make a cup of tea while you wait for the download, and then once you have it, extract the contents of the zip file to a folder of your choosing and proceed to run the version 1.3 installer and follow its instructions. Make sure you've selected the correct install path that you previously installed for X-Wing Alliance and XWAU. It is critical from this point that you pay close attention depending on if you're installing the full mod or just want to patch TFTC from an existing installation. If you are running the game from a clean installation of X-Wing Alliance with XWAU for the first time, then you will need to select this option when the installer asks you. When selected, you will be presented with some extra options, including whether you want to have the remastered or classic MIDI soundtracks, and if you wish to install the original or updated tutorial missions in the classic campaign. If you are new to X-Wing Alliance or just want to brush up on your skills, we highly recommend you select the updated tutorials. Bear in mind the updated tutorials contain new voiceover dialogue, but don't worry, the dulcet tones of the original briefing officer will soon be with you after completing them. For the Reimagined campaign, the updated tutorials are the default and only choice. Once done, go make another cup of tea, and then after a few minutes, the mod will be installed. But there is just one more thing to install, and that's the TFTC 1.3.3 patch, which includes a number of bug and balance fixes, as well as other new and improved features. Remember that this is just a patch and not the full version of TFTC, so you must have version 1.3 installed prior to installing this patch. If you are installing this patch on a pre-existing installation of TFTC instead of a clean one, please skip to this timestamp in the video before proceeding any further. Installing this patch is just as straightforward. Simply extract and run the executable file, select the correct install path, and then proceed to install. You will be given the option to choose your soundtrack again, but you can otherwise ignore this and proceed. You can always change the soundtrack type later on if you wish. Congratulations, the mod is now fully installed and patched. However, we still need to actually activate the mod in order to play it. So open your X-Wing Alliance shortcut, or alternatively the alliance.exe file in the root directory to run the X-Wing Alliance launcher. Right now, if we were to run the game, you will be launching the XWAU mod and not TFTC. So we first need to click on the Palpatine Total Converter, which will run a tool that would allow us to change which mod we are running. You'll see you have the option to switch to the dark side and have the TFTC Classic or Reimagined options available. In brief, TFTC Classic offers all 13 original Tour of Duty battle campaigns with all the original story, dialogue, voiceover files, and in-flight audio. TFTC Reimagined currently offers 9 Tour of Duty battle campaigns, envisioning an expanded version of the original TIE Fighter story with larger battles, new voiceovers, updated story, and dialogue. Simply make your choice and press next, and in a few seconds the change is made and you can close the program. Once again, open the X-Wing Alliance launcher, and you should now see either a TFTC Classic or Reimagined logo on the launcher, depending on which version you chose, and you can now run TFTC proper. If you wish to swap back and forth between Classic or Reimagined, you simply open up the Palpatine converter again, then follow the same process as before. Remember also that we said at the start of the video regarding how you must not run the game from Steam, otherwise the game will simply not run. Always run the game from the provided shortcut or directly from the game files, or create your own shortcut. Okay, so you just skipped to this timestamp or simply watched the video up to this point, where we now talk about updating the mod if you are on an older version. It is absolutely critical before you proceed that you switch your current installation back to the XWAU mod. To do this, select the Palpatine Total Converter from the launcher menu, select Convert TFTC, and then select Restore the Light Side. With this done, if you are for some reason still on TFTC version 1.0, 1.1 or 1.2, you can now run the 1.3 installer, and when presented with the install type option, you will instead need to select the second option. However, if you are on TFTC 1.3 already, or on version 1.3.1 or 1.3.2, then you only need to install the 1.3.3 patch, which is the same process as before. Jesus, this is really a lot of numbers. Run the executable file, select your current TFTC installation path, and then install. Once finished, your installation will now be up to date on 1.3.3, and you can use the Palpatine Total Converter to switch back to TFTC Classic or Reimagined. We also recommend as a precaution that you back up your pilot files, which can be found in the root folder of your installation under the file type .plt. So apparently some of you have VR and might be wondering, does it work for TFTC? Well, thanks to the XWAU mod, playing TFTC in VR is certainly possible and has been optimized and improved considerably since initial release over 2 years ago. We will briefly cover how to enable and use VR, but a more in-depth tutorial can be found on this GitHub page, the link for which is in the description of this video. You can also join our Discord server and ask for assistance in the VR help channel. The community is very helpful and will do their best to resolve any issues you might have. TFTC does not have any specific requirements for VR. If other Steam VR games run fine in VR, you should have no problem in running it in TFTC. The process to configure Steam VR properly for each head-mounted display is slightly different depending on the vendor or model. However, you always need to make sure that you have Steam VR installed in your Steam library. Remember though that you must run Steam VR without running Steam itself, as running the game through Steam will cause it to immediately crash. You just need to create a shortcut to the app in your desktop or taskbar, or launch it from your start menu and never through the Steam interface. There are currently 2 ways to enable VR. One is to use the Babu Frick configurator. To access this, run the game launcher and select Babu Frick configurator, select Customize the VR options in the VR head tracking choices section, and choose Use Steam VR option. The new effects this introduces also has an inertia effect for the cockpit that makes it lag relative to your ship's movement. This can be quite unpleasant to some people and can even induce nausea. You can disable this inertia effect in the Customize Dynamic Cockpit section of the configurator. You can also enable or disable VR quickly by modifying some configuration files found in the root folder of your X-Wing Alliance installation. These can be opened with either Notepad or any other text editor of your choice. The 2 files you need to modify are vrparams.cfg and cockpitlook.cfg. The specifics of what keys you need to find or add are in the description of this video, or on the screen in front of you. Some extra things to bear in mind and consider. The X-Wing series of games includes a lot of keyboard controls. Almost every key serves some kind of function, and there are also key combos. It is vital to learn some of these in order to become an effective pilot. If you head over to the TFTC website, of course, which links are in the description below, you can find a page which lists all available keyboard commands, as well as extra ones we've added over the years to accommodate new functionalities. XWAU and TFTC support a wide variety of different joysticks and controllers, but there can still be some issues in getting these to work properly, particularly with various throttle and axis binds. If you wish to tweak your joystick or controller settings, the XWAU mod contains a community-built configurator which allows more modern HOTAS joystick and controller support and configuration. We have collected several pre-configured profiles for you on a variety of different joysticks and controllers to download. The link for this repository is in the description of this video. Even after setup, a common issue is for the player to find themselves endlessly spinning or rolling about. First, be sure to disable the rudder in the in-game menu, which can be accessed by pressing the escape button, and then in the joystick configurator, you can also modify the axis controls here as well, or even bind an axis to a non-existent controller ID in the configurator to stop some rolling or spinning issues. If you are having issues with any of these, you may want to consider these 3 third-party configuration tools: VJoy, Joystick Gremlin, and HidHide. These 3 tools allow you a lot more fine control over joystick profiles and allow you to create new virtual joysticks that will map to any function you need that the game may not allow for normally. If for some reason you don't have a joystick or even a controller, the game can be controlled purely by keyboard and mouse. To do this, use the Babufrick configurator to turn on joystick emulation and set the mouse sensitivity. You can even just use the keyboard if you want. If you still find yourself facing issues, please join our Discord server and head over to the joysticks and controller section for assistance. The community will be happy to try and help and resolve your problems. You do not need to create a pilot when launching TFTC. A pilot is automatically created and loaded for you when you run the mod for the first time. This is called Alpha 1 for Classic and Alpha 2 for Reimagined. If you wish to have your own pilot name, select the pilot options in the launcher and select Create New Player. You can then launch the game and you will be prompted to input your new pilot name. We strongly recommend you use different pilot files for Classic or Reimagined, as if for example you complete Classic and then use that pilot in Reimagined, it will already be completed with all the ranks and medals. Bear in mind that if you swap versions, then it will unload the existing pilot and preload the Alpha 1 or 2 pilots depending on the version picked. If you wish to alter some of the settings of the mod or XWAU in general, then you can use the Babufrick configurator to change these settings. This includes access to the extra graphical effects that XWAU provides, such as bloom effects, head tracking, VR support, swapping between the remastered or classic MIDI soundtracks, and even more. It is also possible for you to make more advanced tweaks to the graphical settings of XWAU and TFTC without using the Babufrick configurator. The files Bloom, DDraw, and SSAO.cfg are found in the root folder of your XWAU Alliance installation and give you a great deal of control to a wide variety of graphical options. Additionally, if you are wanting to use something other than 16:9 or 16:10 aspect ratios for ultra-wide screen monitors, you can edit the file hooks.ini and set your resolution settings there. Remember, these settings may be overwritten when switching versions or installing future patches, so make backups of them if you do make any changes. If you press the escape button in-game, you can access the game's regular options including difficulty levels, if you want to cheat a little, and various sound sliders to get the right balance that works for you. Along with all the main Tour of Duty battle campaign missions, we also ported in all 28 training missions and even the 1994 demo mission for TIE Fighter as well. These can be found in the combat simulator under the button Training Missions. These missions will unlock as you progress through the campaign, so you will have to complete up to 28 campaign missions before you can play them all. When in flight, if you do not wish to use the dynamic cockpit, you can disable it by pressing the period or full stop button, and then by pressing the D key, you will get the classic X-Wing Alliance interface up. One final shortcut tip that will not be immediately obvious is when you are flying the missile boat in later campaign missions, you will want to use its slam capabilities by pressing the K key. Remember, the slam system takes up your laser energy reserves, so keep them charged in order to keep it running. Oh, do you remember that old mechanic where you could speed up time in a mission so you didn't have to wait so long between moments? Well, the XWAU team have also managed to reintroduce this as well. You can simply activate time compression by pressing the Ctrl plus Q keys together to speed up time. You can also press Ctrl Q again to bring the game back to normal speed. Be careful on pressing Ctrl A though, that will slow everything down to a crawl, and as we're speeding up, simply pressing Ctrl A again will return you to normal speeds. And that, my friends, should cover most of the basics. If you require any further assistance, please do hop onto our Discord server and request help in our tech support channels. You can also mail us at tftcproject@gmail.com. Otherwise, load up the mod, and good hunting, pilots.